Man, the crowd was excellent. Free concert there at the Seaport. We had a wonderful time. And for JNR, everybody's celebrating 40 years. We're celebrating 40 years. JNR is celebrating 40 years. Hey, there's a new box set out. The Columbia Masters. So everybody jump out and get it. We're having a good time in New York as we always do. Peace out.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough, and maybe some of you were too, grew up in an age where audio preceded video, and audio was the main thing before you had a flat screen TV in your room. Was all about the speakers. So we spent a lot of time, playing the album from the beginning to end. That's, Sgt. Pepper was that way, Earth, Fire was that way, and it was a creative work, and we strove to improve our sound systems, which is what I did, how I embedded the original Monster cables to make better quality sound. So I could hear things that you couldn't hear with regular quality speaker work. And at that time, everybody was going to better quality amplifiers, better quality, when digital came around, better quality D-Day converters. Before digital, it was, the quality of tape that you use in your cassette. Sony did a whole big massive program, but that was kind of the golden days of audio, when there was a lot of focus on sound quality. Warmth comes from harmonic richness, because music is not a single note. Music is a combination of notes on top of notes, and that's how, I was at the San Francisco Symphony. Roy Chen, the violinist from China, he says, "No, you want to see $1 million violin?" I said, "Oh my God, $1 million violin?" So he took it out, and I said, "Well, what makes this $1 million violin?" He says, "The wood, the varnish, and it's a Stradivarius." So, but there are thousands of violins. So what makes a Stradivarius like a Stradivarius? What makes a Baldwin or Steinway or a Bosendorfer? When you play the same notes on a piano, why do they sound different? Well, they sound different because of harmonic structure. So it's not the single fundamental, it's the ability to reproduce harmonics that, the last 20 years we've been deprived of, because first of all, the music wasn't there. The quality of the music. Video goes high def and higher resolution. Music goes lower resolution. So you take stuff out, you don't put stuff in. And so from the first analog record to CD, that was the beginning of the end. And then they found different ways of recouping a lot of those missing cues, right? DVD audio, SACD, higher resolution digital, brought back, the warm, better D-to-A converters, because they found that, in the laboratory, digital was perfect. When Philips and Sony first came out with the first CD, the advertising line was perfect sound forever. And we had reviewers in those days, I won't mention their names, that said, we put a perfect signal in, we get a perfect signal out. There is no better audio than a DVD, than a CD at that time. Except when we went to play it, audio guys said, I don't hear the ambience, I don't hear the depth, I don't hear the imagery, I don't hear the vocalist or the instruments like I heard of my record. So I'll deal with the scratches and the pops and the ticks. I'll go back and play my record. So there's been 2 generations, 20 years of listening to music sources on a black and white TV. And that black and white TV was the white earbuds you got with the iPods. So you never heard the music. And I know some band Gizmodo too. You're talking about higher resolution files, how important that is. And I first got to say, well, how do you know that low resolution files don't sound good if you've never heard of them? So it's like having, Blu-ray content and put it in on a, standard definition TV. You can't really see it. So for our vision for Monster and Beats was to get together and provide the world with what the engineers here in the studio. The same kind of resolution, the same kind of dynamic range, the same kind of focus, of the instruments. So when Gaga says in our interview, "Gee, I wish everybody could have a pair of my headphones with my album because they can hear what I hear." And when Dre's still mixing it out 12 years later, right? But the amount of time they spend on the studio just cleaning up one drum track or one bass track, and that's on pop music and hip hop. What about violin? What about real instruments? What about Earth, Wind, and Fire? So Earth, Wind, and Fire is well known for their recordings over the years. Worked with George Massenburg, who's legendary in his perfection. And when Philip did the original albums, it was to capture the full breadth of the band of so many instruments. But just like he hears it on stage, okay, they hear it in the studio. Let's capture the source. What do you play back on? So, we developed the Beats by Dr. Dre with the studios, the products. Then I developed the Beats Pros, the big white cans. So, Philip, I said, Philip, you got to hear these. This is my finest work. I mean, the articulation, the definition, the balance, the fullness of the bass. You've never heard anything like it. And he says, okay, well, send me for a minute. He called me December 23rd, the day before Christmas. He says, I've never heard any of my masters. You can ask Philip what he says. I've never heard any of my masters sound that way. I'm going to go back and re-listen to every master I got. That's how it's like a high quality lens on a camera. You don't see the detail unless you got a sharp lens. Well, that's what our job is as far as headphone makers. So we develop technology to provide consumers with sound they've never heard before. That's why